Jessica's first love comes back, and all the storms begin. That day, she stood in front of me, sneering, with a look of deep contempt in her eyes. William, your status is really not decent. It is far inferior to the family background of my first love. She threw $5 million to me. This is the breakup fee, to give you a decent departure. After saying that, she turned around and left. I was stunned, and suddenly a surge of inexplicable anger surged in my heart. She was just a rich second generation who was used to eating exquisite meals at home, and I, although my life was not luxurious, was not someone who could be easily stepped on. I was so angry that I didn't dare to delay for a second and ran out immediately. I was afraid that she would change her mind and take back the money. 1 month later, the family banquet was halfway through, and the air was filled with etiquette and hypocrisy. I was in the bathroom, adjusting my mood, when suddenly Jessica appeared at the door. William, not only did you lie to me that your father was a loan shark, but you also lied to me about your last name? Jessica asked me coldly, with deep anger and confusion in her words. Looking at me, her eyes seemed full of disbelief. She never expected that I would hide these things, especially about my father's true identity. I leaned against the door frame of the bathroom at home, feeling as calm as a bystander. Really, Jessica? We've already broken up. What's the point of you asking these questions now? I spoke slowly, my tone calm, as if I was treating a passerby who was no longer important. Jessica listened to what I said and suddenly turned around to look at my dad in the distance. At that time, my dad was happily talking to her first love, which seemed to be more eye-catching than our broken relationship. She frowned and said in a low voice full of anger, "What's the point? We have been together for 3 years, and you didn't even tell me the most basic family situation. This is simply a scam." I couldn't help but smile, with a hint of coldness in my eyes. If I tell you that my father is the president of a certain group, will you not break up with me? I said softly, as if I was teasing her, but also as if I was exposing her hypocrisy. Jessica, you are the real scammer. I pushed her aside and turned to walk towards the living room. Jessica seemed to have never seen me so decisive and ruthless. She hurriedly followed me and lowered her voice. Can we talk after the party tonight? I didn't stop, still walking steadily towards the living room, with disdain in my eyes. What's your status? Is it the ex-girlfriend who abandoned me, or the one who will become my sister-in-law? No matter which status it is, I don't think we need to talk. I looked back at her coldly, with a firm look in my eyes. Jessica's face became paler and her brows knitted, as if she was struggling, but she didn't say anything more. Then, she put away all her pride and sat down obediently next to my eldest brother, who had just returned from China, lowering her eyebrows and looking docile, completely unlike the arrogant man who used to be in front of me. I couldn't help but chuckle. She was such a complete chameleon. Jessica's change was so drastic that it seemed as if she had completely lost her former arrogance and strength. The banquet was still going on, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little weird. My father glanced at me and said in an unhappy tone, "You are already an adult, but you are idle all day and wander around with those bad friends. It seems that you really need someone to take care of you." After he finished speaking, his eyes turned and his tone suddenly became gentle. "The little girl from the Liu family is like you since she was a child. She graduated and returned to China recently. Shouldn't you consider her?" I couldn't help but frown when I heard that, and my mood became even more complicated. "Olivia?" I yawned helplessly, feeling a little irritated. If it were in the past, I would definitely reject Olivia's approach. This girl has always liked to stick to me since she was a child, like a follower, and I have no good feelings towards her for a long time. But today, I can't help but be a little curious about how Jessica will react. Great, then my brother and I will get married, which will be a double happiness. I smiled slightly, with a subtle sarcasm in my words. Jessica looked up suddenly, and her face turned pale. She obviously didn't expect me to respond like this, and her reaction was enough to satisfy me. I was no longer the William who was moved and in pain for her. At that moment, I suddenly understood that on the first day I was with Jessica, I realized that I was just a substitute. I was not her real choice. The man who always lived in her heart was that man, Ryan. Jessica's criteria for choosing a boyfriend were based on her first love, Ryan. Among the freshmen, I was the only one who looked the most like him, so she fell in love with me at first sight. William, you are really suitable to be my boyfriend. Her line was like a classic line from the last century. At that time, I was young and frivolous, and secretly laughed at her old-fashioned way of chatting up. Jessica did not chase me, but stood behind me and slowly said, I will give you 100,000 a month. I turned around and smiled. I don't have any special talents, but what I am best at is imitation. At that time, Jessica's secrets were not big news in school. I knew her feelings for Ryan, and I was just a substitute who comforted her and filled the void in her heart. According to school rumors, Jessica met Ryan during her freshman year. Ryan was a dazzling presence, a rich second-generation school idol, a top student, with an IQ of 180 and the dream lover of almost all the girls in the school. Jessica, with a wealthy family and a cool appearance, was a perfect match for Ryan. The two were in love for 3 years, and as they were about to graduate from their senior year, they were ready to get married. However, Ryan betrayed her. His cheating partner was a blonde foreign girl with a hot body that was eye-catching. For this foreign girl, Ryan even broke up with her overnight without paying his graduation certificate and ran away with his new love. Jessica collapsed. Coincidentally, the new semester started the second month after Ryan left, and I also came. The silence of the night was broken by the ringing of my cell phone. I looked at the screen, and it was already 12 o'clock midnight. Jessica's message suddenly popped up. I'm in the woods outside your house. If you don't come out, I'll wait for you. I took a deep breath and put down my phone. Suddenly, I felt annoyed. We had broken up, and I was no longer a boyfriend. Why did she come to me? I calmly replied, You have something to do now? Can you call my brother, or I could go downstairs and call him? There was silence for several seconds. Finally, her voice came again. William, I'm sorry. Can you listen to my explanation? I rubbed my hair, feeling a little annoyed, and walked to the window, looking at the dark night sky outside. What do you want to explain? My voice was full of helplessness. Are you with me just to heal the pain Ryan brought you? Now that he's back, you go after your true love without hesitation. Jessica, I've known for a long time that you treat me as a backup. There's no need to bring this up again and again. There was no answer from her end, only endless silence. I hung up the phone irritably, stood in front of the French window, and looked out through the glass at the quiet grove. The moonlight shone through the branches on the ground, casting mottled shadows, and a thin figure stood there alone. At that moment, I couldn't help but feel a complex emotion in my heart. Her first love, whom she had been waiting for 3 years, had returned, but why did she come to me? Was it out of guilt? I couldn't understand. I turned around and thought about the time we had spent together. On Jessica's birthday, I spent 2 months preparing a gift for her, but when the appointed time came, she didn't show up. I called several classmates and found out that she was drunk in the bar and had no mood to come out. I stood under the tree outside the bar waiting for her for 4 hours. When she was finally helped out, it was almost dawn. Jessica was very drunk, but she saw me standing under the tree at a glance. She stumbled over, hugged me, and cried heartbreakingly. I was moved at that time, and I felt that she seemed to have me in her heart. She murmured, Ryan, you are here. Why don't you come and see me? I miss you so much. Don't leave me. Please, I really can't live without you. As I patted her back to comfort her, I laughed at myself in my heart. William, you are her cure, and you will never be able to compare to Ryan. Suddenly, I looked back out the window, and the figure was still standing there motionless. I knew that person might be feeling guilty, but even so, I still couldn't understand her persistence at this moment. I pulled the curtain shut and sat down thinking a lot. If Ryan hadn't come back, maybe I would still be her backup and continue to be with her. After all, this year, Jessica no longer mentioned Ryan, and she no longer cried. She acted like she loved me. Maybe she also thought that our relationship had begun to solidify. However, reality always hits us hard in the face. Our 3 years together were never as good as the 3 years she and Ryan had. I ran into Olivia at her house over the weekend. She was sitting in the living room with Jessica and Ryan, and the atmosphere was a little awkward. "William, did you miss me?" Olivia's voice sounded, with a bit of coquettishness. She was a lively girl who had always been a follower since she was a child. I remember when she was a child, she even dared to break into my bathroom just to see if I had 8-pack abs. I lazily lay on the sofa, my feet unconsciously resting on her legs to prevent her from jumping into my arms. "Be reserved," I said helplessly. Olivia pouted unhappily and then rushed to Ryan again. Just when she was about to knock him down, she suddenly stopped, as if realizing something, and patted her head awkwardly. "Sorry, I almost forgot." "Ryan, you are not convenient." Ryan patted Olivia's head gently. "It's okay. Jessica will be unhappy." He smiled faintly and turned to Jessica again. I looked at Jessica. She was indeed unhappy. She was very petty. When we were together, a girl from the next class wrote me a love letter. She took the letter to claim her sovereignty. She didn't stop until the girl apologized repeatedly. At that time, I actually felt inexplicably happy about it. Thinking back on all this, I suddenly felt a little ridiculous. It turns out that liking and loving deeply are not at the same level. She liked Ryan, and I was just a replacement after Ryan left. "Is this Miss Gu?" "She's so beautiful," Olivia said with a smile. "You have good taste. You like her brother." "Our brother has been outstanding since he was young. When William and I were chasing cats and fighting dogs together when we were young, he stood at the top, holding the award, looking down on me." She seemed a little familiar and kept chatting with Jessica. I covered my head with a blanket in annoyance, trying to escape her noise. "Olivia is really noisy." "Really? But I think William is also very good." Jessica's voice came, and I opened my eyes from under the blanket, and the past scenes emerged in my mind. In the past, I lived under Ryan's halo since I was a child, and I never had a sense of existence. His excellence made me give up on myself and never work hard. Until I met Jessica. Jessica is different from me. She's a very hardworking person. She has clear and firm goals. Fashion design is her favorite career, and Paris Fashion Week is the stage she longs for. In order to accurately understand those foreign language textbooks, she taught herself translation and obtained a translation qualification certificate. In order to graduate smoothly and study abroad, she also worked hard and taught herself IELTS and Advanced Oral English. During that time, her plans were all centered around the future. In order to keep up with Bu Jingxue, I also started my own efforts. In those years, I took all the certificates she had taken, thinking that we could keep pace with each other and even look forward to a bright future together. However, everything began to collapse the moment Ryan returned to China. She gave up the overseas admission letter that could have brought her a bright future. Only then did I completely understand that studying abroad, fashion design, and the beautiful vision of walking into the future with me all became insignificant in front of Ryan. I began to wonder if all my efforts were just paving the way for her love with Ryan. Was she learning foreign languages not for her dream of design, but to pursue the man in her heart again? Really? Is our William so outstanding? Olivia suddenly broke my thoughts. She pulled away my blanket without any hesitation and sat down next to me with a smile. Jessica's expression changed slightly, but Olivia still didn't notice. I said calmly, "You've been abroad for so long, and I want to find you. Shouldn't I learn some skills?" She opened her eyes wide with a surprised expression. "William, are you serious? If I don't go back, are you going to come find me?" I glanced at Jessica, who was in a daze, and said lightly, "Of course." Olivia was suddenly happy and couldn't wait to hug me. "I was right about you." She smiled, her eyes full of pride and satisfaction. "Uncle Chun is right. You are like this, you don't like to express yourself, and you keep everything in your heart." Over Olivia's shoulder, I saw Ryan's usual gentle smile. He held Jessica in his arms, but Jessica's expression was like being fixed by wood, stiff and at a loss. I smiled foolishly watching them, knowing in my heart that all this was actually my own choice, but now it makes me feel a little hypocritical. Jessica started to send me WeChat messages frequently, one after another, most of which were empty. Every time I impatiently ignored her response. I didn't want to accept her apology, nor was I ready to forgive her for the harm she caused me. I admit that I've kept a lot from her over the years. I didn't tell her that I was Ryan's brother. I always let her think that I came from an ordinary family, that my father was a loan shark, and that my family and I had deep conflicts. I never mentioned my family affairs, and because I took my mother's last name, Jessica never had any doubts. Over the past few years, she has regularly transferred money to me every month, and the balance in the card has gradually increased, but I have never used a penny. She once said that a man's love for a woman is often reflected in his willingness to spend money on her, and I have always felt that it is the same for women. During this time, I took out the card and stroked it repeatedly. Suddenly, I realized that, apart from the money, Jessica had hardly bought me anything else. The only thing that was meaningful was probably the amulet, a seemingly insignificant little item that became an indispensable treasure in my heart. She once told me that giving gifts is hypocritical and that actual actions are what matter most. If I hadn't seen the boxes of gifts in Ryan's room, I might have believed her. Ryan went abroad. His room was filled with all kinds of gifts, from exquisite pens to limited edition clothes and electronic products. But I only had that insignificant amulet. I can no longer believe in her so-called reality, but I also know that people who are in it will always deceive themselves about everything. Even if it is full of sadness, I will still watch the sugar melt in the glass teapot and imagine the sweet taste. Just then, Jessica sent me another message. I heard that your father wants you to join the group and help your brother manage the finances so that you can directly join the company after graduation. I opened WeChat and saw a screen full of urgings. It was like returning to my school days when I always blindly cared about her feelings and went all out for her every request. But now, I don't want to be the person who obeys her anymore. I have some information here that can help you supplement some knowledge about the association. Although Ryan is very good at this, you learn things very quickly. I believe you will soon be able to grasp the essence and will not be much worse than him. Are you at home today? I will send the information over later. Her words are like Ryan's image, reminding me once again of my insignificant existence. I still remember how sincere my response to her was at that time, and how I could work all night for her late at night. However, now I just want to throw away my phone and keep her voice away from me. It's really annoying. Are you sick? I quickly replied a few words and put down the phone, feeling more and more annoyed. Once upon a time, I was influenced by every word of this woman, but now, only annoyance and disgust filled my heart. Since I was little, I have always been compared to Ryan. My family always said that he and I have the same father and mother, but in the eyes of others, his brilliance always overwhelms me. That almost identical face makes me look like an accessory in the eyes of others. Ryan, always so outstanding. Even the women who like me seem to be attracted by his face. Seeing him shine in front of others, I feel extremely inferior. But he is always polite to me, his younger brother. Even if I am dissatisfied in my heart, I can only swallow it silently. You always compare yourself to me. Can you not be so outstanding? I once secretly complained to him in my heart. However, he comforted me like this. In my heart, you are always the best. Every time I faced him, I couldn't get angry. His gentle comfort always made me unable to resist, even if I felt extremely aggrieved. In this love-hate relationship, I gradually began to give up on myself. It was not until Ryan decided to go abroad that the pain in my heart seemed to be relieved a little. I naively thought that he would never come back, and I was willing to be his substitute. I even couldn't control my attraction to Jessica, even though I knew I was just her substitute. However, fate likes to play tricks on people. Ryan came back, and with a wave of his hand, he easily took back everything I'd spent in the past few years. And I was still the joke, trying my best, but still unable to change the ending. The WeChat notification sound rang again, and a message pierced my eyes. Your brother proposed to me. I suddenly turned off my phone and threw it to the ground. The air seemed to freeze for a few seconds. I felt an inexplicable anger burning in my heart. I couldn't help but grab my coat and walked out the door without looking back. The lights in the bar were flashing. The noisy crowd and the deafening music were intertwined, and men and women were swaying wildly on the dance floor. I sat quietly in the corner of the tower alone, drinking one glass after another in front of me, almost without stopping. 2 months ago, Jessica and I were still discussing marriage. I was going to graduate next year, and Jessica said we could get engaged first and then have the wedding after I graduated. And I still remember clearly what I said to her. You must choose a very large diamond ring for your wedding ring. I won't marry if the ring is too small. She smiled and agreed. But just a month ago, Jessica called me. I had just finished my brother's wedding party that day, and Jessica's words were like a bolt from the blue. William, let's break up, she said bluntly. We are not suitable for each other. I can't accept what your father did, and my family will not agree to let me marry you. And I can't forget Ryan, and now he's back, I'm sorry. That phone call made me feel like I was cut open by a knife, and a cold wind poured into my heart. After she finished speaking, she disappeared from my world. A month later, she completely disappeared from my life, and there was no contact anymore. I gulped down a large glass of wine, my mouth full of bitterness. Why bring up the past again? Who did she think she was to let me go so easily and turn around to find that Ryan? The lights in the bar suddenly became dim. I turned around, and Olivia's chubby face was almost touching mine. She giggled and pulled my arm. William, why are you drinking alone? Why don't you come to me? I pushed her face unhappily. Why are you always everywhere? Olivia smiled innocently and rubbed my shoulder nonchalantly. It means we are destined to be together. People who are destined to be together will naturally see each other all the time. As she spoke, she happily jumped onto the high chair next to me. Her short legs dangled back and forth, making her look particularly cute. I raised my lips and smiled bitterly. I really envy you for being so heartless. I'm not heartless, she said in a gentle but firm voice. I'm just happy to see you happy. She paused, blinked, and her tone became a little naughty. Maybe I cried secretly where you couldn't see. I was amused by her words. Why are you crying? Aren't you living well even though you can't see me? Olivia shook my arm, still smiling. How can you say that? You've changed a lot over the years. Her tone became gentler. You used to be very repulsive to Brother Ryan, and you didn't treat me well, but now I think you've become much warmer. You know how to care about others, and you even give others some leeway. Did you take advantage of me not being in a relationship anymore? I raised my head and drank the wine in the glass, feeling a bitter taste in my mouth. Without Ryan, these past few years have not been easy for me. Although I don't want to admit it, he is my brother after all. Who can bear to let him sink completely? As for Olivia, although she always says some irrelevant things, I know that she is not as carefree as she seems in the past few years. Olivia didn't care about my silence and continued. Speaking of which, Ryan's girlfriend is really good. I heard that she has been waiting for Ryan, and Ryan persisted because of her. There seemed to be some sighs in her tone. God really favors this pair of lovers. I gripped the wine glass tightly and felt a slight pain in my fingertips, as if this would make me sober up. Was Jessica really waiting for him? An indescribable emotion surged in my heart, and a bitter smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. She's been waiting for him? Olivia stopped talking and just looked at me quietly, as if waiting for my response. After a while, she spoke again. Uncle Chun said that he is preparing a wedding for them. The girl has waited for so long. He should give him an explanation. Her words made me feel irritated, and I almost squeezed the wine glass out of shape. Jessica, what did you say to Ryan? I couldn't see the warmth I had expected in her eyes. Was she really waiting for him? Did she hesitate? I couldn't answer these questions, but the pain in my heart was real. Olivia suddenly reached out and snatched my wine glass. Her soft little hands pinched my red palms, and her voice was gentle but firm. William, I have been waiting for you all these years. I was stunned. Her face rarely showed shyness, and the warmth in her eyes made me feel dazed. I said in a daze, then I will give you an explanation. Ryan's proposal was arranged very quickly, and the time was set in half a month, which happened to be Jessica's birthday. For this engagement party, Ryan booked a 5-star restaurant under the group. Every detail, even every decoration, was designed by him. He decorated the entire restaurant like a dream, according to Jessica's preferences, and even thoughtfully arranged a travel itinerary for them after the engagement. Jessica has always liked the Chinese style. Ryan introduced to me with a happy face. She said that Chinese style is the most beautiful art, so I decided to decorate with all Chinese red. What do you think? Seeing Ryan's expectant expression, I couldn't help but ask, "Brother, do you really believe that she has been waiting for you all these years?" Ryan was gesturing with his hands happily, but suddenly stopped. He turned to look at me, with a trace of sadness in his eyes. "William, you know what?" His voice became low. "When I left, I thought about how to make up for this relationship every day. But because I had no hope for the future, I chose to hurt her. In fact, I know very well that I have no right to ask her to wait for me, who may never come back." His eyes were a little confused, as if he was recalling something. On the night we broke up, I stood on the street and watched her cry for a long time in the heavy rain. I really wanted to rush up to her and hug her and tell her how much I loved her, but I couldn't. Why should I let her wait for me? She is still young, and she has a bright future, and I am not qualified to occupy a place in her world at all. I could sense the pain and helplessness in his tone. But God blessed me, and I survived. Now I could get what I lost back, and this feeling is so precious. Being able to start over with someone you once loved is truly the most romantic thing in the world. I didn't say anything, I just looked at him silently. Time seems to be able to erase many things, including the pain between us. Ryan's eyes were full of expectation. "William, will you bless your brother?" I was silent for a moment, and then I said softly, "Brother, you will be happy." After hearing this, I silently made a wish in my heart. Maybe one day in the future, Ryan and Jessica will really start their new life. And I should also start my own new life. In the following days, I blocked Jessica, deleted all her contact information and photos, and sent the bank card she gave me back to her residence. In order to completely break up this relationship, I moved to an apartment outside, hoping that we could both start a new life. Olivia would visit me almost every day. She would always try to make me happy in various ways, such as giving me small gifts she made or cooking meals she cooked. When I was with Jessica, I always tried to make her happy and to make myself better to be worthy of her. When I was with Olivia, I felt like I was back to my true self and would not change for anyone else. The night before the engagement, Olivia took me to see the sea. From the moment we set out, she kept chattering excitedly. She sat on the deck, looking at the sea in the distance, happily telling me about her little dream. But I looked at the endless waves with a little loss, and my heart was filled with complicated emotions. Tomorrow, Jessica and I will completely become each other's past. Ryan is right. Starting a new life with the old one is the most romantic thing. However, this kind of romance belongs to very few people. People like me seem to never have it. William, do you believe that there is someone in this world who is willing to die for you? Olivia suddenly asked me, her voice low and firm. This question stunned me. My parents may never have loved me to this extent, and I dare not even expect others to give me such extreme feelings. But if it was Ryan, he might have such feelings. Jessica loved Ryan so much that she almost lost herself. I remember that we had been together for more than 2 years. When she suddenly cut her wrist for Ryan at night one day, I almost didn't react. That night, I went to her house because I missed her. When I opened the door, Jessica was lying in the bathtub, and her blood almost dyed most of the water red. I rushed over, helped her up, nervously carried her downstairs, and rushed her to the hospital. She looked at me with red eyes and said with almost her last strength, "Don't worry about me. William, let me die." I will never forget her expression at that time. I understood. Without Ryan, her world would be meaningless. At that moment, my heart sank. I once thought that I could replace his place in her heart, but I was wrong. My face, which was similar to Ryan's, might be the only motivation for her to live, but I could never truly replace him. Jessica, don't die. I'm willing to be him, as long as you're willing to look at me. I can learn everything you like about him. At that time, I almost cried when I said these words to Jessica. She choked in my arms, and her body trembling made me feel deeply sad. That time, she stayed in the hospital for 2 months, and her body and mind were seriously traumatized. Later, she seemed to really start to learn to love me. She learned to act like a normal lover, learned to send messages to tell me that she missed me, learned to hold my hand on campus, and when I received a girl's confession, she was furious and jealous for me. However, her heart has never completely moved on from Ryan. Her love for me is learning to love me, rather than showing it naturally. The sudden sound of someone falling into the water pulled me back to reality from my memories. I stared blankly at the water surface that was gradually returning to calm, and Olivia, who was chatting and laughing with me just now, had disappeared in the endless sea. I stared at the rippling water, and there were bursts of buzzing in my ears, and my heart seemed to stop beating. After a while, I touched Olivia's phone on the deck with trembling hands. I swiped the screen and found that there was no password, so I went directly to the memo. She seemed to have anticipated this moment and left me some last words. William, do you believe that there is someone in this world who loves you more than his own life? You will definitely say no, but I can't help but tell you that there is, and that person is me. She wrote, from childhood to adulthood, I have always been the annoying guy around you. You always say that others can only see Brother Ryan. Yes, Brother Ryan is so perfect, everyone likes him, and it seems instinctive to like a person who is extremely perfect. But compared to instinctive liking, I love you more. Love your imperfections, love your hard mouth and soft heart, and love your kindness. I know that you have loved a girl in these years, and she has changed you a lot. I have become a better person. Unfortunately, you always feel that you have let me down. You dare not disturb me, and you have a lot to say, but you dare not say it. Her words made me feel heavy. Until I heard that you broke up, I mustered up the courage to come to you again. Mom once said that if you love someone, you should try once without asking the result. I also want to take advantage of my youth and be thick-skinned again. She wrote at the end, William, if no one loves you, can you look back at me? I have thought about the future. Can you not give up halfway? I suddenly choked up. The wind blew my hair, and I couldn't help but cry. Time seemed to stand still for a long time. I read her words over and over again, feeling a violent wave in my chest. After a long time, I turned around and saw the little girl wrapped in a bath towel, standing in front of the cabin, tears streaming down her face. If I am with you now, it is because I am moved. Would you be willing to? If I say that I have not completely forgotten her, will you give me some time? Are you still willing? I walked towards her involuntarily and paused slightly. Her eyes were stubborn. I saw that moment. Her eyes were flickering with unwillingness and desire. As long as you are willing to move forward, I am willing to run towards you. I took a deep breath, raised my foot, and took a step forward. She threw away the towel and ran towards me. The sea breeze blew up her hair. I also took out the amulet I carried with me and let her figure slowly fade away. The next day, I went to pick up Olivia. She wore a grand pink suspender dress, dressed like a butterfly, lively and charming. Are you happy? She sat in the passenger seat, shaking her legs with a smile. Happy? I whispered. I'm not the one getting engaged. Why should I be happy? Olivia still smiled mischievously, as if she didn't take my words to heart at all. Then will you be happy when we get engaged? She suddenly approached me, with a playful light in her eyes. I responded silently, with a... She happily hugged my face and kissed me hard. Olivia, I've told you many times that little girls should be reserved. I'm not reserved. Olivia didn't care, and continued to smile and shake her short legs, with a look of success on her face. The venue of the engagement banquet was decorated very grandly, in Chinese style, luxurious yet low-key, and full of connotation. The banquet hall was filled with relatives and friends, and it was very lively. The old man smiled as if he was getting married, and his mouth never closed. I glanced at the whole audience, and my eyes fell on the front position, where the protagonist had not yet appeared. Olivia took my hand and found a seat to sit down. She turned her head to talk to me from time to time, but my attention had long been attracted by the person on the stage. Finally, the lights suddenly dimmed, and Ryan appeared in the center of the stage, followed by Jessica. I subconsciously looked up and met Jessica's frowning eyes. "Ms. Gu is so beautiful." Olivia took my hand unconsciously and said with a smile. I didn't respond, but continued to stare at Jessica, feeling an indescribable pain in my heart. If Ryan didn't show up at today's engagement banquet, then the protagonist might be me. Jessica, a typical Oriental beauty with delicate features and a slim frame, looks like a wedding dress tailor-made for her. Her beauty is so beautiful that I can't look away. I have imagined her in a wedding dress countless times, but now that she is standing in front of me, I dare not look at her again. The host stepped forward to start the ceremony. "Mr. Chun, are you willing?" "Yes." Ryan on the stage had almost no hesitation. While I was distracted, the banquet had entered the most critical stage. "Ms. Gu, are you willing?" The host repeated it twice, but still did not get an answer. The entire banquet hall suddenly became quiet, as if everyone was holding their breath. "I'm sorry, I don't want to." Jessica suddenly spoke, and the words "I don't want to" were like a bolt from the blue, breaking all expectations. Everyone gasped, and the audience was talking about it. I stood there in a daze, looking at Jessica. Her eyes were clear, without a trace of hesitation. She just said these 3 words lightly. Then, she looked at me, her eyes full of helplessness. Ryan still stood there, looking at Jessica quietly, without any emotional fluctuations. He did not lose control, did not cry hysterically, only had that helpless and bitter smile. "Olivia, you don't have to apologize," Ryan whispered. "If I made you feel uncomfortable, you can choose to let me go." Jessica nodded, suddenly turned around, and walked down the stairs holding her wedding dress, and came to me. There was a hint of reluctance in her eyes, but more of determination. I didn't see Olivia's expression, but I knew she must not be looking well. "William, are you willing to give me another chance?" Olivia's hand tightly squeezed mine, as if conveying some silent pain. Her nails began to dig deeply into my palm, and I could feel her every tremor. "Sister Gu, what does this mean?" Olivia's voice revealed an anxiety and uneasiness that she herself was not aware of. Jessica turned to Olivia, her eyes calm and clear. "You know she has someone else in her heart. Why do you let her stay with you? I have been with her for so many years. I know that she is a person who will express her love once she loves. She doesn't express it, not because she doesn't love you, but she doesn't love you." Olivia's hands tightened, and her whole body seemed to be exerting strength. I didn't dare look her in the eye, but I could hear her suppressed sobs. She was no longer the lively little girl, but was in an uncontrollable pain. "William, let's talk." Jessica insisted and stretched out her hand. I was a little stunned, recalling every little bit of our past. She seemed to always believe that I would choose her, but being favored is always fearless. She once thought that I loved her and that I would definitely choose her, but time and reality are not that simple. I broke away from Olivia's hand, took Jessica, and strode out of the venue. Ryan stood there, watching us leave calmly. The only thing he could hear was Olivia's faint crying. Walking out of the hotel, I let go of Jessica's hand. She was wearing a wedding dress, attracting the attention of passers-by, but I kept a certain distance from her. We walked forward aimlessly, and the lights on the street enveloped us, with a hint of unspeakable silence. "I know you still love me." Jessica's voice came, breaking the silence in the air. "Can you listen to my explanation now?" I stopped and looked back at her. The emotions welling up in my heart were hard to describe. The expectation in her eyes made me choke for a moment, and finally I spoke. "When I first got together with you, it was indeed because you looked like him. Ryan is my first love in my life. During the years I was with him, I gave him my most precious feelings and was always immersed in the future he had drawn for me. Until he suddenly left, leaving me alone, all the beautiful blueprints were shattered with his departure." I lit a cigarette and took a deep puff. The smoke slowly rose in the air, as if it could swallow up all those unbearable memories. Jessica stood in front of me, looking at me quietly. She didn't like my smoking. "You can't smell this smell," so after being with her, I quit smoking. You showed up at the right time. She continued. That period was the most painful in my life. If it weren't for you, I would have given up on myself. You re very good to me, and Ryan treats me even better. He's a very serious person. Even when he's talking about love, he sounds like he's reporting on his work. He's incredibly serious about his work. She smiled gently. You're different. Your love is very friendly and natural. After being with you for a long time, I slowly began to forget him. If he came back later, I think I would have chosen you without hesitation. William, I'm sorry. She whispered. I just realized that I have fallen in love with you. Will you give me another chance? I didn't answer, feeling heavy in my heart. Jessica came too close to me. The smoke was pungent, and she coughed, interrupting my thoughts. Olivia's figure suddenly flashed in my mind. That girl, the girl who had always been by my side. This is probably the difference between suitable and unsuitable. I muttered to myself. Jessica looked at me in confusion, as if asking, What do you mean? I didn't answer her directly, but lowered my head and took a puff of cigarette. Do you know why he abandoned you? She was stunned. Are you talking about Ryan? I nodded and continued. Over the years, there have been rumors in the school that Ryan is fickle and seems to be honest, but in fact he is a scumbag. It doesn't matter what others say. You have been with him for so many years. Do you believe it? The confusion in Jessica's eyes gradually deepened. What do you mean? Ryan has been a reliable and honest person since he was a child, with excellent character and academic qualifications. I sighed. You should know that my family has been comparing him with me since he was a child. Although I hate this kind of comparison, I have to admit that he is almost perfect. Maybe he is too perfect, so God is unhappy. I paused, took a deep puff of the cigarette, and then continued. During your sophomore year, Ryan was diagnosed with mid to late stage gastric cancer, which was discovered very late. At that time, he had already begun to have obvious symptoms, but he didn't tell you. During the sophomore holiday, he went abroad for treatment, but the treatment effect was not good. Foreign experts recommended that he undergo chemotherapy as soon as possible, but the probability of recovery is extremely low. Jessica's eyes paused. Why didn't he tell me? What's the point of telling you? I said calmly. If he dies, you will suffer for the rest of your life. Rather than letting you suffer for the rest of your life, it's better to let you hate him. At least you can start a new life. Jessica was stunned, her mouth slightly open, as if she had never expected Ryan to make such a decision. I continued, when you were in your sophomore year, he was diagnosed with cancer and chose to stay in school in order to spend more time with you. He loved you very much, but eventually, he started vomiting blood, and the situation became more and more serious. He couldn't hide it any longer. In order to make you hate him and not be sad for him in the future, he chose a very stupid way, saying that he had a relationship with a foreign nurse and spread the news of their breakup. Jessica froze in place, eyes wide, obviously unable to accept the truth. He said he loved me, but why didn't he tell me? I didn't answer her question, but continued. What's the point of telling you? He looks at you and can't bear to see you suffer for him, so he would rather make you hate him. Jessica's eyes gradually dimmed, and she whispered, What about you? Are you doing this because you are his brother? I nodded. Yes, I have always been by his side. He asked me to take care of you and help you get through those painful days. I worked very hard for several months to get into your school and finally got my wish. Things became smoother after I met you. I could have followed Ryan's instructions and helped you get over the past and start a new life. But life is really hard to predict, especially relationships. I didn't expect that I would be moved. Jessica listened silently, and the complex emotions in her eyes made me feel extremely heavy. You have always been very restrained and never touched me. I always thought you were respecting me. Jessica smiled bitterly. It turns out that to you, I am just a task. Actually, it's not like that. I spoke softly, my voice choking a little. Later, I really wanted to marry you, but Ryan came back. William, have you ever loved me? Have you ever loved me? Even if it was just a brief moment of affection. Her voice was low, with a hint of anticipation. I lit another cigarette and took a deep breath. The smoke slowly rose, I exhaled, my eyes became a little blurry, I have, but like Olivia said, I have a lot to say, but I can't say it. Jessica smiled. Tears slipped from the corners of her eyes. She wiped them away gently. William, thank you, and I apologize to you. I'm sorry for delaying you and Olivia for several years. Her voice was gentle, but it made my heart hurt beyond words. I stared at the roadside. Jessica walked by me. She suddenly accelerated and ran a few steps and finally fell to the ground. I looked up at the sky, my heart full of bitterness. Why do we meet at the wrong time every time? I restarted the car and drove home. Not far away on the street, a butterfly-like little girl came towards me. She walked alone on the street, her body trembling slightly with every step, as if she was enduring endless pain. Liar, you said you wanted to stab me and give it a try, but I only waited for one day, and now you don't want me anymore. Olivia whispered to herself, her voice full of sadness and loss. I followed her silently, my heart aching. She suddenly stopped and turned around, her eyes full of grievance. Are you here to tell me to forget it? Have you decided to be with Miss Gu? I walked up to her, gently held her in my arms, and said softly, so you plan to find a place where no one is around and cry in secret? She turned back sobbing and lowered her head. William, I have thrown away all my reserve and come back to find you. If you still don't want me this time, I will never bother you again. I will stay away from you. If you really plan to be with Miss Gu, I will also wish you happiness. I looked at her, feeling a little pain in my heart. You don't have to say that. I've already told you that girls should be reserved. In some things, men should take the initiative. I leaned over, kissed her forehead gently, and gently pressed her back into my arms. Olivia, I'm not lying to you. I'm going to give a try with you until I fall in love with you. After a few minutes of silence, Olivia hugged me and burst into tears. William, I thought you didn't want me anymore. Thank you for not abandoning me. I know I'm not as pretty as Miss Gu, but I can guarantee that you are the most important in my heart. No matter what happens, at any time, my choice is you. I can wait, as long as you don't abandon me. Olivia s back gently, looking at the quiet street, feeling mixed emotions. When I was with Jessica, I hoped countless times in my heart that she would firmly choose me. But love is always divided into first come, first served, and the one who left first will always arrive first. She filled that position completely. No matter how hard the later ones try, it is always difficult to erase the traces of the past. Olivia calmed down a little. I sent her home and went to the bar alone and drank a lot of wine. This time, Jessica really said goodbye. After sobering up, Olivia and I went on a spontaneous trip to Jahad Island in the Maldives. Olivia wore a swimsuit and swam in the clear water like a flexible fish. I learned that her hobby was deep sea diving. The first time I went to a diving class, the instructor said diving is the most romantic thing in the world. Underwater is a world where you can't communicate with words, and you can only convey emotions through your eyes and actions. It brings people closer together. Underwater, people share hardships. As long as they take a risk together, worldly troubles will be hard to defeat them. At that time, I made up my mind to learn deep sea diving. For you, I want to dive once. Olivia lay by the pool and looked at me, a serious look on her face. Do you call jumping into the sea romantic? I raised my eyebrows, picked up the wine glass, lay down on the recliner, and said with a smile, to be honest, I was really scared at the time. I didn't even understand why you chose to commit suicide. Olivia glared at me angrily and said, you're a straight man. Then she dived into the water. I smiled, took off my sunglasses, and continued to enjoy the sunlight and the tranquility that belonged to me. Next, we went to RE, Palau to see sharks, Bali to see the sunset, and Simulon Island to see the golden willows. Olivia was very happy every day with a smile on her face. But she never mentioned a word to Jessica, and she seemed to really help me forget the past. Every morning, when I sleep in, she sits by the bed and gently brushes my face with her hair. When I drink 2 more glasses of wine, she coquettishly hands me her favorite juice. On the streets of Sri Lanka, she shouts to me in Chinese, I love you. On every beach she passes by, she writes a declaration of love. When the sunset is about to come, she hugs me tightly and gives me a passionate kiss before going to bed. She never asked me to change and told me to be true to myself. With every move, she made up for all the gaps in my previous relationship. She made me begin to believe that there is indeed a different temperature between loving and being loved. 2 months later, I received a phone call in the Libyan mountains of Provence. As soon as the call was connected, a depressing voice came, and my heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. My arms fell weakly, and the cool wind blew in my face, chilling my fingertips to the bottom of my heart. The scent of lavender gently brushed across my nose, and I raised my hand to touch its top, but when the wind blew, it swayed with the wind and brushed past my fingertips. Ryan again, he was lying quietly on the hospital bed, his face pale, with a thick tube inserted in his mouth, and his face was distorted by the torture of the disease. The once energetic Ryan was no longer there, replaced by a man who was tortured by the disease. I held the handrail of the ward and supported myself to prevent myself from falling. From the moment I received the call, Olivia was very quiet. On the way back, she hid in a place where I couldn't see her and cried secretly. Her red eyes betrayed her. Looking at her back, I was in no mood to comfort her because my heart was full of complicated emotions. There were footsteps at the end of the corridor. They paused, then slowly came over and stopped in front of the ward. Jessica stood there. She looked thinner than before. Her face was pale, as if she had aged several years overnight. Through the glass, she looked at Ryan lying on the bed, her eyes affectionate and soft. "I should thank you," Jessica whispered, her voice full of gratitude. "Thank you for telling me the truth." This time, Ryan failed to deceive me. She paused slightly and smiled self-deprecatingly. "Do you think he is stupid? He tried to deceive me twice for the same reason." Fortunately, I didn't believe him. Jessica slowly squatted down and buried her face in her knees. She curled up and trembled. The pain and regret almost drowned her. I looked at her and felt a little uncomfortable. Olivia stood beside me, biting her lips silently, her eyes full of tears and deep despair. I walked over and whispered in Olivia's ear, "Aren't you going to comfort her? Are you waiting for me to go?" Olivia was stunned for a moment, and then she ran quickly to Jessica. The two women hugged each other tightly, bearing silent pain. The doctor finally removed the tube and signaled that one person could go in. I nodded and walked into the ward alone. Ryan opened his eyes with difficulty. His voice was extremely weak. "Dad is old. You'll have to take on the responsibility of the company in the future. I have sorted out the company's information in the past few months, and the account books are all with the accountant." He paused for a moment, his voice choked with sobs. "I know you have always hated me and Dad because of Mom. If I could do it again, I would rather be the one to die. But the blood transfusion was Mom's idea." He smiled with difficulty, his eyes full of pain. For so many years, he didn't remarry, and he was always thinking about Mom. I looked at him silently, with an unspeakable pain in my heart. "William, I'm sorry that you lost her when you needed her the most." Ryan's eyes dimmed, and he was silent for a moment, then whispered. I clenched my hands tightly to suppress the surging emotions in my heart. "Don't say these things. Treat your illness well, and you'll get better." Ryan moved his lips slightly, smiled softly, and his voice became lower and lower. "William, forgive me. This is the only time in my life that I have been selfish. If you love her, take good care of her in the future. Brother, you'll be fine." I felt a sob come out. Ryan looked at the glass window outside the ward and chuckled, his voice gradually becoming low. "The first time I saw Jessica was when I was a freshman. She wore a white cheongsam and had a sweet smile. She was like the brightest light in the crowd. I listened to his voice, and my heart was filled with emotion. William, I hope time can go back and see her again. If I could go back to that moment, I would choose to pass by her and let her live a stable life. Jessica, I'm sorry I couldn't fulfill my promise to you. If there is an afterlife, it's only a moment." Ryan's voice became weaker and weaker, and finally fell silent. I watched him close his eyes, and the electrocardiogram changed from a weak fluctuation to a straight line, with no end for a long time. This was the final farewell with endless silence. Ryan's funeral was simple and quiet, with only his family and Jessica in attendance. Jessica, as Ryan's wife, attended the funeral, and she did not cry or make a scene during the whole process, remaining calm the whole time. She went to comfort her old father and expressed her condolences, appearing particularly mature and steady. They are really a perfect match. Both of them can remain calm in the face of storms, burying any emotions in their hearts and appearing calm on the surface, even if they're suffocating with pain in their hearts. A few days later, the funeral was over and the house was filled with an indescribable silence. I looked at Jessica and said softly, "Although you didn't have a wedding, Ryan's home is also your home. You can stay here. Later, if you meet the right person, we will also bless you." Jessica's eyes were still as calm as ever, and her voice was like the drifting wind. "Ryan once promised me that he would take me to Adele Manor when we get married. He said it was the most romantic wedding place, and that married couples would be together forever there. We have always had an agreement, and I have been looking forward to it for a long time and want to go and see it." I was silent for a moment, then looked at Olivia. She bit her lip with a puzzled look in her eyes. "How about Olivia and I go with you?" I suggested softly. "No need." Jessica smiled. "Now that he's gone, you have to drop out of school to take over the company, and your uncle also needs care. I don't intend to distract you. I will go to Adele Manor and take a look to make up for this regret. Then, I will come back and live with you." Olivia walked forward and gently held Jessica's hand. "Ms. Gu, I'll go with you. I'm an idle person. William has a lot of things to do, and I'll just delay you here. How about I go with you to relax?" Jessica pinched Olivia's face and smiled gently. "Thank you, but I hope it's just me and him. That's the place he promised me, and I don't want anyone else to disturb it." We failed to convince Jessica. She is a stubborn person. No one could change her mind. I know her stubbornness. Once she makes up her mind, no one can shake it. Dad seemed to have aged a lot overnight. The next day, I went to work and started looking through the information Ryan left behind, busy sorting everything out. Olivia was very considerate and came to my house every day to make Dad happy in various ways. And Jessica, a few days later, took a handful of Ryan's ashes and embarked on a journey to Ireland. I spent the next period of time in a busy schedule. Olivia called Jessica every now and then on my behalf. She always shared the little bits of beauty of Adele Manor, and Jessica would happily tell her everything. It seemed that everything was going in an orderly manner. However, late one night, Olivia suddenly came to my house, her face pale and her eyes full of anxiety. "William, something happened, Jessica." Her voice was anxious and uneasy. It was 13 days after Jessica went to Ireland. Mr. David, the general manager of Adele Manor, received her in person and arranged everything for her. Mr. David told us that Jessica had booked the wedding at Adele Manor a month ago. She wrote an email to Mr. David, telling him about her love story with Ryan. She said that even though Ryan was dying, he was still the man who considered her future. She was willing to marry him when he was terminally ill or when he turned to ashes. David was so moved that he could not express it in words. Although it was difficult to book a wedding at Adele Manor, he still agreed to Jessica's request. 3 days ago, Jessica and Ryan held a wedding. Jessica put on her wedding dress, hugged Ryan's image, and fulfilled her lifelong wish under the pastor's auspices. That night, Jessica hugged Ryan tightly and died in the church. Mr. David prepared a transparent crystal coffin for Jessica. It was like a dream. Just as he was about to contact relatives, he received a video call from Olivia. She couldn't help crying, her voice choked with sobs. "William, I couldn't stop her." I stared at the crystal coffin in the video, looking at Jessica lying quietly. There was no pain on her face, only deep calmness, as if she had left this world peacefully in her sleep. At that moment, the scene of her committing suicide by cutting her wrists in the bathroom many years ago emerged in my mind. Today, that determined and paranoid girl still has not changed her love and is hopelessly persistent. And this time, I failed to save her in time. Ryan has always understood the principle of stability. He was willing to hurt himself to keep her alive, But in the end, he failed. This time, neither he nor Jessica won. Their love is like a knot that can never be untied. Life and death depend on each other, entangled with each other. And the end of all this may not be the best outcome for them. In order to prevent Jessica from living alone in pain and regret, Olivia and I chose a beautiful cemetery in Ireland to bury Jessica and Ryan together. On their tombstones, we posted a photo of them smiling. It was the first year they spent together. Under the blue sky and the sea, the two of them were smiling like flowers.